Warm welcome everybody in task 1 writing video. So I have taken this bar chart from book Cambridge 7 and it is from test 3, and as you can see the chart below shows the information about changes in average house prices in 5 different cities between 1990 and 2000 compared with average house prices in 1989. So means guys, these prices have been given in comparison to 1989 prices. As you can see, the chart is having the scale which is also denoting percentage in minus, which shows that during this period of time the cost was this percent cheaper, and otherwise it is saying that the cost was this percent costlier, right? And he has actually divided the whole interval of 1990 and 2002 into two parts. First is 1992, 1995, and 1996 to 2002. So means by understanding this task, we can easily say is that during 1990 and 1995 interval, Madrid and Frankfurt were costly in comparison to 1989 prices, whereas New York, Tokyo, and London were cheaper. Means they were having this percent lesser cost than 1989. And moving further to 1996-2002 interval, there we can see that only it was Tokyo which was 5% cheaper than before, whereas slight increment was observed in all cases, in case of New York, in case of Madrid, in case of London, which became, I think, the costliest of all. But it was only Frankfurt which experienced a slight downfall in prices in comparison to before, but still it was having more cost than 1989. So that is overall understanding of this task, and before writing, let us also talk about the vocabulary. So for rephrasing, we will substitute average with word mean, and for cities we will write metropolitans, mega cities, or on places we will also write these places, areas. For cost we will write price or rate. We shall also be using comparatives for costly, that is costlier, costliest, and for expensive, more expensive, most expensive, cheap, cheaper, cheapest. And then for in comparison to 1989, I shall be using as compared to 1989 and then 1989. And for houses, I shall be using accommodation and residences, whereas dwellings can also be used. Now let us start writing this task. So we can start our introduction this way. The bar chart reveals, and for changes we can substitute variation. The bar chart reveals the variation in mean cost of accommodation in 5 metropolitans between 1990 and 2002 in comparison to 1989. So that cost has been given, and let us put one more sentence. The data is calibrated in percent. Okay, that is our data, and now we can start with overview first of all. And as we have seen that all places or cities have experienced growth, and Tokyo was still the cheapest of all, and London and New York became costliest places to dwell. So we can say in overview, all places experienced growth in prices. And now at the same time, we should also mention New York and London. So we will write, and London and New York witnessed complete swing in prices of property to become costliest. So that way we have told that now they are the costliest places. And now also talk about Tokyo, and Tokyo was only exception which was still cheapest to dwell than 1989. So overview part is also over, and now we shall be explaining the interval of 1990 and 1995. So we can accordingly make start of our body paragraph 1 now by explaining the interval of 1990-1995 in detail. And here we will have to talk firstly about Frankfurt and Madrid. So Frankfurt and Madrid had increment in rates of, now how much is it? It is 2% for Frankfurt and 1.5% for Madrid respectively. So in rates of 2.5 and 1.5% respectively. And we have to now talk about other cities At this time, London, Tokyo, and New York, these places were cheapest to stay. So, were cheapest to stay, and now let us also talk about prices, where prices declined by 7.5%, 7.5%, and for New York it is 5%. So 5%, and now we will not use respectively, we will use serially as compared to 1989 prices. Right, so our first part is over, and now probing further to 1996 2002. Now again we'll have to talk about London and New York first, because they have experienced a big change. So probing further to 1996 2002, now London and New York took big leap to acquire. So they have acquired first and second spot, right? And now also let's talk about the data. At this point, these mega cities were how much? 12% and 5% costlier than prices of 1989. So that part is also done, and now we are to talk about Madrid, and then we'll also talk about Tokyo, because both cities have experienced increment, whereas I will talk about Frankfurt later, because Frankfurt cost has decreased. So let us talk about now Madrid and Tokyo, because both places have experienced increment. So we can say same was with Madrid and Tokyo, because these places have also experienced increment. Now same was with means it is saying that cost has increased. Now we can straight away give the data, where property noticed 2% and 2.5% growth. And we can add one more thing about Tokyo, that it was still cheapest to live. So we are adding contrasting connector, but later was still 5% cheaper than 1989's cost. Okay, and finally we are left with Frankfurt, and Frankfurt is the only place actually where the cost has decreased. So, and Frankfurt became only place where residential cost plummeted, and it has plummeted by 1%. So that way this task is getting over in 177 words, and is also keeping in mind the grammatical accuracy, task response, and is also giving you good connective devices, and is giving you huge lexical variation with accuracy. So that way this task deserves big band score. Bye bye. That's all in this video. Praveen Khanai is signing off.